Hey guys, welcome back to Real Housewives Recaps. Today I am so excited to be talking about Bridgerton, Season 1, Episode 2, Shock and Delight. You guys, if you have not watched this, pause this, go watch it. It's on Netflix. It's Shonda Rhimes' newest creation, and it is so good and so addictive, and I'm super into it, and I can't wait to talk about it. So let's get into it. Let's talk about it. Okay, so jumping right in, we learn a lot this episode about the Duke of Hastings, or as I call him, my new boyfriend. He's so cute. Okay, so we're immediately thrown into the scene where this woman is giving birth. Lady Danbury is there, and they're calling this man Your Grace, and they're kind of not filling in what's going on. But, of course, this is where we see the Duke of Hastings is born. And they never address the dad, so I don't know what his actual title is. What's I don't know. But the king, I guess? I'm not sure what he would be. He has a son. And Lady Danbury is friends with the mother, calling her Sarah. And so in a nutshell, we find out that the Duke of Hastings, his mother passed away during childbirth. His father is the worst person in the whole wide world. We see for a moment that he loves his son, but we find out he does not love his son. He just loves the idea of having a son. The father names him Simon, Duke of Hastings, and from there we cut to see present-day Simon looking in at the room where he was born and where he lost his mother and where this all took place. Okay, so from there we go over to Queen Charlotte. Now we're hearing the voice of Lady Whistledown. Of course, it's narrated by Julie Andrews, who I love. She's talking about the scandals from the last night's ball, and specifically Daphne Bridgerton, seen dancing twice with the Duke of Hastings. Daphne's getting ready to go see him. So it's a whole thing. So if you didn't see the first episode or you don't remember, the Duke of Hastings and Daphne. So the Duke is not interested in any of the ladies. The ladies are all interested in him because he's gorgeous and a duke and eligible, and he's not interested in any of them. Well, quite the opposite. Daphne is looking to get married this season, and she wants to meet a nice man and get married. So they came up with this ruse that they would be an item because it would make the ladies leave him alone and make more gentlemen interested in her. So that's, of course we know that. Okay. So they've met. They're coming up with the terms of their agreement here. They meet up and they work out that they're going to do 6 balls together, and he's going to send her a big bouquet of flowers. She says, expensive one. She says, he kind of balks at this, and she says if we were really courting, he would buy out all of the flowers from all of the shops. And you guys, he has the best line of the whole episode here. He says he would only need 5 minutes in a drawing room with her alone to win her over. Woo! You guys. Kind of made me warm there. So we go over the Featheringtons. I love the daughters, hate the mom. That's the point, I guess. So the girls are talking about Marina Thompson. Remember, that's the cousin that's staying with them. They're talking about Miss Thompson's condition. Woo, scandalous. So if you remember, she hasn't bled. She's expecting. We're not quite sure who the father is. We might learn a little bit about that later. We'll talk about that when it happens. But Penelope is talking with a Bridgerton sister. I believe that is that Eloise? I get all of the Bridgerton sisters' names mixed up because they really don't introduce them very well. But Penelope kind of lies and says it's a maid that's in the condition where she's not married but expecting, and they both fear that it will happen to them. We go over to the Bridgertons' house. Daphne's playing piano. Mom is asking about the ball and talking about all the different balls that the Duke would attend with her. Well, sister bursts in and says, how does one become with child? I thought you had to be married for that to happen. Of course, everybody is scandalized by her saying this. It was Eloise. That is Eloise that says it. And the mom quickly shuts her up and we find out that Daphne has collars. So it's obviously working with the Duke. Mom says, what? The Duke is already a collar, and Daphne is playing coy, saying, well, I suppose I have more. Okay, so Anthony, the oldest brother, comes home, and we see like 100 men waiting to court Daphne. P.S. I love this house so much. That exterior shot with the beautiful flowers, I just love it. Okay, so we see all these men in there to court Daphne. Well, remember, Nigel Bearbrook, he is the worst. He's that older guy who... So he's pissed. He's the one that she had to punch in the face. And it seems that Bearbrook has struck some sort of deal maybe with Anthony, because he's saying they're engaged. She's like, no, 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 no. She says, promising me to Nigel does not mean that I'm engaged. She says she has many choices. She talks about the Duke. Mom explains that they promenaded today, and he spent very expensive flowers to her, to the mom, and to Daphne. Okay, so we go over to the Duke. He's boxing. Anthony goes to see him. Can't figure out what's in this for Anthony. He does not want the Duke with his sister. Why wouldn't he? I know they're friends, but Anthony just seems to be out for what's in it for him, and you would think her marrying a Duke would bring a lot of positive attention to the family. So this storyline I'm just a little confused on, but he's telling the Duke his sister's already engaged to be married, and it's Nigel Bearbrook. Well, of course, the Duke knows what's up, that Nigel is a creep and disgusting and tried to get physical with Daphne, causing her to have to punch him in the face to get him to back off. So, okay, so during this, we get a flashback, and we get to learn more of what a monster the Duke's dad was. And he doesn't understand why Simon isn't speaking, and this is where we find out, oh my God, this kid is so cute. We find out that he has a stutter, and his dad calls him an imbecile. Lady Danbury's trying to protect him. It's just such a sad story. So much happens this episode. Penelope, who I love, goes to see Marina. She's the only one that's being nice to her. She goes to check on her. She brings her some sweets. Marina's in bed. Penelope asks how this happened. And we hear this name, Sir George Crane. And Marina explains it's because of cake. And Penelope has a funniest reaction where she stares at the cake like, what? So Marina explains that at her church, the sermons would last for hours, so long that this George Crane would sneak her cake, and then it became where he'd put notes in there, and one thing led to another. And Penelope asks what brought about her condition, and she says love. So this actually makes me feel a little better, even though it's a terrible storyline, and the family's being so cruel to her. I was worried because the husband's being so creepy around Marina. I thought, oh God, I hope they're not hooking up, or that he didn't take advantage or something. That's all. Then we go over to Queen Charlotte, and she's looking through the Lady Whistledown paper, trying to find out the latest gossip and what's going on. She says she wishes to be entertained and enthralled, and she's upset because nobody has gotten engaged this season, and she really is just she's just bored, so she's looking for some gossip. And she asks for the royal stationery. We see a handwritten note delivered over to the Bridgerton household. It's for Daphne's mom. The mom has been invited to a private tea with the Queen in 2 days' time, so everybody is all abuzz about that. So then we go over to the Duke of Hastings. Lady Danbury walks out, and he's going to escort her to the latest ball. So we get another flashback to Lady Danbury. She goes to visit the Duke when he's a small boy. She explains that she's dearest friends with his mother, and she just basically wants to check in and see how he's doing. Oh my God, this kid is so cute. She wants to know why he's not in school, and it's because he has this stutter and he can't speak. She tells him a story of being a girl and attempting to dissolve into the shadows, and says that she sharpened her wit and her wardrobe and her eye. She made herself the most frightening in the room when she enters. She promises to help him overcome the stutter, and she says when you step into the light, you must be worthy of the attention you command. So then, of course, we're back in current day. Oh, this amazing man. Okay, so they go into the ball. Daphne walks in with Anthony. And Duke asks her to dance, and Anthony goes to object. Lady Danbury cuts him off and asks for a drink, forcing Anthony to take her and to go get this drink. So then the Duke and Daphne are alone. She says then that she's requiring him to take her to 8 balls and a picnic to fan the flames. She says it must feel like the precipice of a proposal in order to get Nigel Bearbrook to leave her alone. Just then we see Nigel being all pissy. He finds Anthony and says he expects him to fix this situation. The Duke overhears and comments on Daphne's right hook and calls out Nigel's character. Bearbrook says Daphne will grow to love him. The Duke asks him how he got his black eye, and then he explains to the brother he attempted something I shall not dare put into words. Anthony says Daphne surely would have told me if that was true. And the Duke says, would she have? And something finally clicks in Anthony, and he says, you will never speak to my sister again. You will never look in her direction. Just then, Daphne realizes something's up, and she comes to see what's happened. Anthony says, you need not worry about Mr. Bearbrook again. You'd think this would relieve Daphne greatly, but instead she's upset. She goes to the Duke and says, you told him about her punching him. But she explains that she's quite capable of speaking for herself and that people are watching and he cannot reassure her of anything. So basically her whole issue is now it's going to get out that I was alone with this man. He has the ability to tarnish her reputation, and back in these days, reputation was everything, and it could actually really mess with her chances to find a mate. So the night ends weird, and let's see, the Duke ends up escorting Lady Danbury home, and she says, the young lady is a rare treasure. Do not bungle this up. The Duke goes for a walk. We see Bearbrook following him. Oh, this guy does not learn. He says he implores him to go speak to Anthony again, and Nigel is saying he needs Daphne. The Duke says it should be up to Miss Bridgerton, and this asshole, Nigel, says, when I buy a horse, it is not up to the horse. Oh, I want to punch that guy in the face too. Anyway, he goes on to say a bunch of really crappy things. He says, let's see, he goes on to say things about the Duke's father and his mother turning a blind eye, and the Duke ends up knocking the crap out of him. And I gotta say, I gave my TV a round of applause. So the Duke goes to see his father. We see this in the flashback. I understand that they had to fill in this storyline for our bit to understand where the Duke's coming from, but oh, I hate this man so much. Oh, he's a monster. The Duke is trying to impress him, but when he hesitates, the dad says, you're my worst failure. Lady Danbury stands up for him and says, this will be the next Duke of Hastings. And he says she is to be out of his sight with her quote-unquote bitch mouth. And let's see, the son wants to know if Dad got any of his letters. And you know what that horrible monster said? That he has proved to be as useless as his mother was, who died in childbirth. Oh my God. I hate this monster. I know that's the point, is we're supposed to hate him, but I hate this guy. I love Lady Danbury. She ushers the son out and protects him. Meanwhile, in present day, he finds all the unopened letters he wrote to his father in the office. We see that Whistledown has started a new paper. She sent it out. Daphne is reading it while her lady, or her whatever you call it, is doing her makeup for her. At the park, we see Penelope and Eloise, I keep forgetting her name, walk and talk about the Marina situation. Of course, Bridgerton girl thinks that it's the maid who is expecting. She says, oh, that poor maid. Penelope hasn't revealed that it's Marina that's actually expecting. So, of course, Daphne's there at the park. She's supposed to meet the Duke for a picnic in a little bit, but Anthony sits with her and says she should have told him what happened. Of course, they're talking about what happened with Nigel Bearbrook. And she says he only understands and believes because another man told him what happened. And I love her. I think she's spot on. She's able to articulate how she's feeling. That's awesome. She asks him about, so the Duke arrives, okay? And looking so handsome. And they take a walk. She asks him about his bandaged hand, and he says it's because of boxing. Of course, we know it's because he knocked out Nigel. Woohoo. And they're talking, and he says he's not the marrying type. And she says, have you considered that women may not want to marry you? And he says, if I were forced to take a wife, you would be the least objectionable. So you can see that they're obviously kind of falling for each other, but that they're both hesitant. She wants to find love, and we'll find out his story in just a little bit. So during this time, they're being flirty in the park, and it's drawing everybody's attention. They're doing a great job of playing at being together, and it's working because all the men are taking notice, and that's exactly what Daphne wants. Meanwhile, Nigel, the worst, runs up to Anthony with a huge black eye, and Daphne sees it and says to the Duke, what have you done? Nigel says that he's taken matters into his own hands in regard to the wedding. So basically what's happened is Nigel is now threatening to spread rumors of them being alone in the garden together, which will ruin Daphne. And if she doesn't want that to happen, she's got to agree to marry him. It is the most insane plot line and infuriating and interesting but awful. So Daphne is devastated. She's saying basically, I will be ruined. I have no choice but to marry him. And of course, Anthony knows this isn't right. Her mother knows this isn't right. But it's interesting because Anthony is just out for himself, and he doesn't know how to fix it, it seems. He still seems to have some weird deal with Simon or something. Not Simon, sorry. I get all their names confused. With Nigel. And the mom ends up coming up with this plan. So the mom comes in to talk to her that evening when she's upset. Talks about marriage and household and children and the joy of all of that. And Daphne says she wants what Mom and Papa had. And they're both very upset by the situation. But Mom is going to fix it. Mom comes up with an idea. Meanwhile, we see Eloise Bridgerton sitting out on a swing, and she's smoking. And one of the brothers, I believe this is Colin, comes to sit with her. And she says she wants something different out of life. She doesn't want what Daphne's going through. She doesn't want to do the courting game. She doesn't want to do all this. She's just not interested in that. And, I'm sorry, this is the brother Benedict. Good God, so many names. Okay, so she says that she's not allowed to have anything else. And he says that she's not the only one whose life has been chosen for them. So, interesting storyline. So, Mom Bridgerton has the letter from the Queen. And so today's the day where she has to go over and dine with the Queen and spend time with her. So she gets to this big fancy palace, and the Queen and Mom are sitting, and they're playing the piano. Someone's playing the piano for them, and they're talking about the future of Daphne. And the Queen is saying she expects a big future for her. P.S. The Queen is doing cocaine, which was really funny. Mom leaves and says they are to invite Lady Bearbrook over for lunch. So I didn't quite follow this part. Something about this meeting with the Queen makes her realize she's got to get something in motion, I guess. I believe it's because the Queen says she expects big things for Daphne. So for some reason, her solution is to invite Nigel's mom over to lunch. So that was an interesting play. I'm not quite sure. I guess to see if there's any hope with Nigel. Of course, Nigel's mom comes to lunch and she's a complete cow. She's saying things like she only had Nigel because perfection had already been achieved. She tells Daphne, "You must try harder, dear. He already has turned down many more suitors." And Lady Bearbrook, she's critiquing Daphne's lack of eating, talking about she needs to eat to bear children. The maids, so they get involved, and they end up talking to Lady Bearbrook's maid. And they come up, okay, so they start talking, right? And when Lady Bearbrook leaves, the housemaid comes up to talk about what she's learned, and they report that Nigel Bearbrook has had a child with one of the housemaids and refuses to acknowledge or provide for this child. So he's a horrible man, and they're trying to figure out a way to get rid of him. And this is where Mom has a flash of genius. So Mom's idea is that they all talk about what they've learned about this child that he's fathered and refuses to admit or to take care of. And if they talk enough, it'll get to Lady Whistledown. So we see flashes of all the women in the town talking, and we see the story spreading. Well, exactly what she wants. Lady Whistledown says the town is abuzz with the most sordid tale. I would not be surprised if Lord Bearbrook was called out to the country soon. And then they talk about a young boy who hopefully takes after his mother. And of course we see Bearbrook read it and freak out. It's hilarious. So then we go over to Mom. She's sewing. Anthony comes in and he's being Anthony, just being a dick. And he's saying he's resolved to handle matters better in the future. Well, Mom handled it. It's done. She even says I'm perfectly capable of handling these matters. And Anthony is just pissy because Mom stepped on his toes, and he's the oldest son, so he thinks he should be making the decisions. Wah, wah, wah. Mom's amazing. We go over to Marina's, and the housemaid is dropping off a tray for her, and Marina's saying, "You can't hold me here." She's confined to her room. It's really a depressing storyline. Then we go over to Daphne, who's getting dressed, and Eloise is watching her. And Eloise is explaining that she's completely frightened about appalling arrangements and the possible awful endings. Eloise heard Mom's screams, and apparently Mom almost passed during childbirth, so Eloise is just completely shaken up about it. And Daphne admits that she too is frightened. And she says there's light at the end, and she knows that in the end they'll both find it. Eloise says it must be taxing to keep up the smile that Daphne's forced to maintain. So then we go over to the ball, and we see Daphne and the Duke. And she's saying she will not have this go wrong. And he's like, "What, our ruse?" And she says at this point it's more than a ruse. This is about my life. It's like she's finally clicking. She cannot end up with Simon. She needs this. I keep calling him Simon, my God. Nigel. She cannot end up with Nigel, and she needs this to work out. This is about my life, and I must finally take charge of it. And so I shall not have this go wrong. And if you're not in it, you got to tell me right now. And you'd think he's going to hesitate, but he actually tells her, "You don't have to call me Duke of Hastings. You can call me Simon." He says that there'll be a match like no others, and they're dancing very close, and it's so romantic, and he's putting his hands on her skin, and whew, okay. I wish I was dancing with him too. She says she wishes to find a husband and to have a family, and he says, "Then let's find you a husband." They bow, the song ends, they walk away from each other, and it's interesting because they're still checking each other out. Another man asks her to dance, and the Duke watches on, so he's obviously into her too. Lady Danbury says they make a captivating match, and wants to know what's bothering him. And he kind of starts to stutter, but he doesn't actually say anything. Oh, you guys. And then the last scene of the show, we flash back to when his father was dying, and the Duke goes to see him. And the father says, "My son, you've returned to take your rightful place." He's coughing. He can barely speak. He's, on his deathbed. The Duke says, "I have returned to make a vow. I will never marry. I will never sire an heir. The Hastings line will die with me. Are my words clear enough for you, father?" And then he says, "Speak, you effing monster." And then the dad dies. Oh my gosh, so good. Such a cliffhanger. So that all finally makes sense. So this is the reason why he can't let himself fall for Daphne, and why he's not interested in finding a mate and doing the things that he's expected to do as Duke. And chilling. And I love that he finally put his dad in his place. And after all those years of torture that the dad gave him, he was finally able to give it back to the dad. And you guys, even talking about it, I have chills. So good. Such a good show. If you're not watching it, jump on it. Highly recommend it. It's so good. Really enjoying it. And so I'll keep on with this if you guys are into it. And let me know your comments below. Let me know your thoughts on the show. I really appreciate it. I hope you guys have a fantastic week. Take care of yourself and stay healthy. I'll talk to you really soon. Bye-bye.